I'm Liz Hector. I'm the Marketing and Comms Director for PMI Netherlands. I also work on what we call grand challenges across the digital space of all of Europe, all 46 chapters in Europe. I also have my own blog. If you know what you want, do you know how to get it? I want to share with you a method I created. I sort of project manage my life, you could say. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about having a plan is better than just being an optimist. Optimism is great, and I'm a big optimist, but you do need a plan if you want to realize some of your dreams. And the best way to do it is to start simple. So that's what we're going to do today. If you want to have a goal, you're going to need a roadmap. And to achieve that, you're going to need to define what that goal is. And to realize that goal, you're going to need to have actions. We tend to live in our comfort zone. Of course, that's where life is comfortable. But to really get into growth, we're going to need to go into goal setting, achieving goals, and focusing on those kinds of things as well. That this article was from the CEO of KLM. I find this to be true too, and we're going to talk about this, that resolutions don't work because they're so specific and hard to follow, and they're yes, no, they're black, white, you either met it or you didn't. But if you reflect and plan for your future, you can make movement forward, progress. That's what we're looking for. The other thing I wanted to share with you was this great interview. I have like almost an 18 or 19-minute interview with Luana Picard. And for those of you who don't know, she is the board of director chair for PMI, Project Management Institute. That's a global position. And that is a voluntary role. She's actually also a professor and department chair for University of Alaska. But in this role, she basically speaks on behalf of the members. And so for her, membership outreach is really important. And I put that video there. We'll put lots more content there in the coming weeks. But I wanted you to hear a little bit from Luann.
Because I personally, and throughout my career, and what I would really encourage all of us to be doing is recognizing that uncertainty isn't something to be afraid of. Uncertainty is something that allows you to find opportunity, because I really do believe in uncertainty is where innovation lives and opportunity actually thrives. So if everything you do follows a very prescribed path, then you don't really have the opportunity to demonstrate how unique you are and what you can bring that's very that's potentially very different. Again, setting the goal of where you want to head, but how you do it, what you do to get there, the processes you use, the approaches that you take, the value, the initiative that you take, the innovation is, I think, incredibly important to always be open to those, because I do believe that that's uncertainty, as scary as it might be, particularly in today's times where it can be a bit overwhelming and can be challenging. It's really where that, again, where innovation lives and opportunity grows. And I would, so for us, when we're approaching our career, it's really good to be focused on the outcomes or the things that we want to be able to deliver. But it's also very important that we allow ourselves the flexibility and the freedom to explore the edges around that, because that's where we may have the possibility to really learn and grow, but also distinguish ourselves in unique ways because of the value that we can deliver by exploring that uncertainty.
That video, I just played about 1.5 minutes of an 18-minute video, and I hope you check it out. The idea of what a theme is.
I don't know when in the year you're watching, but if I had to bet on the status of your resolution, it's probably not flourishing, but failed or foregone. This is usually what the effort curve on resolutions looks like. If New Year's is new to you, you are forgiven for not knowing, but come on, this isn't your first resolution rodeo. You've been here before, saddled up to a resolution, gotten thrown off in short order. New Year's resolutions suck. Human behavior change is really hard, and the resolution rodeo, this is not the way. Instead, to accomplish what you want out of resolutions, positive life change, but in a better way, allow me to suggest a gentler idea. Give yourself a theme. Instead of setting yourself up to fail with, I'm going to lose X pounds by next year, or I'm going to read 1 book a week at least, A theme would be something like Year of Reading or Year of Health. Now, if that sounds a bit broad, that's the point. For some things, precision matters. For others, it doesn't. And when trying to build yourself into a better version of yourself, exact data points don't matter. All that matters is the trend line. If the trend is going in the right direction, so are you. Just moving a trend from negative to positive is hard enough without defining falling short of a goal as failure.
If you are still interested in knowing more about themes, I've got these 2 links for you to follow so that you can hear the whole podcast where he talks about the background of themes, or just watch that full video, which I find very helpful. Another thing is that I'm going to take you through, as I mentioned, my version of the life coaching guide, which I actually have been using myself for many, many years, but I started posting on my blog in 2020. And so now I've got the 2024 version available. You can access this form via the QR code or going to Projects Mentor. And at least what I do is I have an app I use called Notability. And if you open a file, you can just write or type into these different spaces if you want, or you can just mimic it by a piece of paper and a pencil. Are you going to use the guide? Is that a plan you would plan to do?
So far, we received some feedbacks that the joiners like the concept. There are some detailed answers from Isaline. I find the idea interesting, just maybe challenging to pick one theme for the whole year when we want more than one thing.
You are right on target, because if you watch the rest of that video, he actually says that. He talks about maybe it's a theme for a season. So it could be winter or spring. You pick a different theme because there's more than one thing you want to do in the year. What he does suggest is you have one theme for that season, and that can be 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, but that you have that sense of focus on the one thing in its general sense. Like he says, don't lose weight, but have health.
I use themes for quarterly planning to see the main areas I would like to focus on the next 3 months.
Excellent. Exactly. You've answered it there. So I don't know if you can see that everyone says they will try to use the guide and plan to use it in some form, whether it's paper and pen or actually downloading it and using it in a printed or digital form. Downloading any of my content from my channel, please feel free. It's all for you. I created my Project Skills Mentor channel so that I could help others, since I've been doing this for 45 years or something, a very long time. But what I want to say is this isn't PMI's asset. This is my asset. So I'm just giving it to you from myself, not from PMI. So at the beginning of every year or the end of the current year, I start to go through a few things. So first of all, one of the things I think is important is checking mood. So right here at the top where the date is, I have 5 little mood figurines, because your mood will impact the outcome. From that perspective, it's really important for you to acknowledge when you fill out this form in December, maybe you're feeling very optimistic, but you got overwhelmed with work in January. So if you look at it in January, you might think, why was I so optimistic? And then you'll realize your mood might have been different, your situation or the place you were in at that moment. You can't make a path with a goal and actions if you haven't yet self-assessed. And that's what we're doing here. Also reflect. And Simon Sinek talks a lot about the term why. And in my blog, I talk more about this topic, which is what's your purpose and your passion? You know, living life with intention means you've got to know your reason for being. And of course, that's because you want to be a good person. You want to be having a nice family life, a good work career, but there might be more to that. So talk about what's underneath all of that. So here I write, I love to learn. I want to increase my knowledge and capabilities, but also I want to share my knowledge and capabilities. That's my why. That's why I'm doing this today and have been running the women's platform for 4 years so far. Ask yourself this question once you've narrowed in on your why. Is it working for you? Think about whether it's working for you, because we're going to do some of this self-reflection. The other thing I do when I assess myself is I talk about what motivates, inspires, drives to action, but also derails me. I can say when I'm being derailed because of toxicity or negativity, it's like trying to run through strobe. It's very, very difficult. It takes all of my energy. And I myself manage not my time, but my energy, because I have a lot of energy, but also when I run out, It's like running out of gas in the auto. It doesn't go anymore. So I have to understand myself in terms of my motivation and my inspiration, but also what my blockers are. And I have to work to make sure the blockers are out of my way so I can continue with my high energy and move forward. I also use the concept, what do you want to be known for? But what I mean is, if you were to hear the two most important people in your life talking about you in a nice way, or maybe your boss and your boss's boss talking about you without them knowing you were listening, what would you hope that those two people say, whether it's in a work situation or in a life situation? What are you hoping the world is getting from your messaging about who you are and what's important to you? It isn't as important about what they say as the delta between, the difference between what you see about yourself and what others seem to think about you. I'm going to run one more poll, which is, do you already know that you have a theme for this year? So we have some with goals, some that don't have themes yet. You're thinking about it, and that is the job number one in my view. The next part of this format that you'll see, this guide I've created, is this concept of a life wheel. And there's two types: where I am today and what I want to do in the future. And the idea of this is, I already have prescripted things like goals, health, family, the main topics, but of course you can make them whatever you want. And what I do try to do, and I call this looking at my life in parts. I don't know about you, but in any given year, there are parts of my life that are absolutely top. I've taken care of my health. I'm having enough free time. I'm spending time with my family, but maybe I'm working too much, or maybe it's not going great in my voluntary work. And so understanding all those different aspects of my life, taking them in parts, is what helps me start to create goals for the coming period, whether that's a 3-month period or a whole year. So if you look at today and look at the future, in future, I don't say year, because as Isaline and the other person pointed out, it could be 3 months, but whatever that future is. So if I were doing this for 3 months, my future would be 90 days from now, sort of situation. The other thing is, I also put a number inside my wheel, which is not just anecdotal, like time to sport is what I wrote next to health and today, but a number of 1 to 10. And you can pick whatever numbering you want, but I like 10 being the best, 1 being the least. So I kind of sense right away in my wheel where my difference is between what I want today, where I am today, and what I want in the future. And what I would say is, don't make this too hard on yourself. You want to pick a theme that works for you, but you're not trying to fix everything at once. You want to be reasonable and give yourself grace, and change is hard enough. So maybe pick 1 or 2 areas you want to make a change in. And eventually, if you can, tie them to one single theme. How will that theme support you in your why wheel? So you're always coming back to this why wheel, as I call it. This is your definition of your why. Make that a little bit more explicit, a little bit more detailed. Next, because I'm a visual person, I like to have these icons. I like to have kind of a little map, and it could be on a sticky note too, that I put up, and I could even draw it if I'm nice at drawing, or I could use some icons to say, what is that? That way, here at my desk, I can actually keep that note, like remembering if this is my year of reading, did I read today? And in fact, of course, if you use any kind of iPhone products, if you have a book, it will actually track your reading goal for you in terms of number of books and number of hours of reading. And then, like all good project managers, which many of us are, is OKRs. So you're going to track your objective, what you want. So it's not just your theme here, it's what you want from it. And then how will you measure it? And I mentioned, if you're using Apple to read books, you can track that. But how else might you track that? Will you have a journal, something else? And also, what initiatives? So now that you're going to track something, what initiatives are you going to take that you will track? And again, I do this in a very light way. I track my reading through my iBook app to create your action plan. So have a high-level action and some dates. Again, just like any other project management tool, we want to have milestones along the way. So whether we're talking about a month or 3 or a year, we've got a clear plan of action. One of the things I also suggest here is, whatever works for you. If making this list of 3 points works for you, do that. If your mind map makes sense for you, do that. Project planning, make a high-level project plan. But whatever it is, don't let it just be one time and then gather dust. Have it be some place where it pops up on your screen when you log in, or you open up your journaling book and you see it there. Do something that resonates with you so that you'll look at it again and again. That's what I would suggest.
Also, we got feedback from Anna. It helps me to block 1 hour every 1 or 2 weeks on Friday morning to reflect on my goal theme. Life happens and you may get derailed by everyday issues.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. You know, that is such a practical way to actually put it in your agenda and block that time. I completely agree with you. That is a great idea. Thank you. Okay, the last part of the 4-part guide you can download talks about this, which is, let's say you decide to make it the year of health. But to make change happen, you have to make it stick, or be sticky, as we'd say if we were talking about social media type content. So how do you make it sticky for yourself? One is being clear about your theme, your why, and your wheel, because those things are all part of the same story. It's not different stories. It's one fluid story. At least it is for me. But words are important. So the name of your theme might not be health, but for instance, Isaline and I both walked up Mount Kilimanjaro. So the year I did that, my theme was Kilimanjaro. I don't know what yours was, Isaline, but it puts immediately the picture. I even had, in my moment of checking in with myself, I had a picture in my app of a mountain to make it a word that isn't just a word that means that thing, but more importantly, one that even resonates with you, one that gives you a feeling connection, a connection of feeling. And then also something positive. You know, we're triggered constantly by negativity, toxicity, and this year's been a really bad one for me. But if you use positive wording in the I can, I will, I am space, it will help draw you toward that theme. The last thing I want to mention about this is the issue about how you learn how you learn. And so it's contextual, right? So if I want to have a year of health, I need to work more on kinetic, the thing about actual moving my body. I need to think about stretching every morning and things like that. If I want to read, I need to think about where I'm spending time with my eyes. So where am I spending time? Am I listening or am I reading? What am I doing? So thinking kind of about how you learn, how you learn about learning, and how you learn about yourself in terms of changing are all positive ways of reinforcing the change to stick.
I really like that you shared that the theme of the year should be positive, not like demanding. And then if I don't achieve, then again, I'm struggling with myself, but more like sharing with myself that I should be positive, I'm capable, and even getting started is already an achievement.
Yeah, I'll just underline that with an example. Many of my Dutch friends ski, including my husband. They ski. And one of the things about skiing, because I'm not a great skier, I'm a great water skier, terrible snow skier, is when you're skiing, right? You want to look in the direction you want to go. If you're looking at the cliff or the trees, that's where you don't want to go. So don't look there, look where you want to go. And that's what your theme should do for you. So one of the things maybe many of you have heard about is the concept of atomic habits. The very small things that seem unimportant will compound your results if you stick to them, because you can stick to a small theme. If you say, I'm going to become a marathon runner, unless you're already doing something along those lines, it's very hard. But if you say, I will go for a 10-minute walk every day, or I will just walk in place in my house for 10 minutes every day, that's doable. And then 10 minutes can become 20. And then, in a year, you're running a marathon. Here's some tips that the book gives, which is make change obvious, attractive, as we've already discussed, make it easy. The things that are hard are already hard enough. So for your theme, try to break it down into easy chunks and then make it satisfying. Celebrate the moment. Change is a process, not an event. So you have to think about how you take your life guide, talk about Luana's message in terms of being open to opportunity and valuing yourself. That's another thing she talks about that I didn't play today. Looking at the growth zone, this picture, which isn't from me, but I thought was a great concept, and figuring out what works for you. So it could be a combination of these things. It could be something completely different. Really, it's figuring out what you want and what you need to change to get there. And however you do that is success. We're asking a lot when we ask ourselves to change, don't we? So we want to be kind to ourselves in the process. What I also wanted to do was talk about the journey I've been taking us on for the last couple of years, learning to be a leader and learning from life's lessons. That's what we focused on this year. Next year, we're going to celebrate International Women's Day, but we're also going to create in June an International Congress for PMI Women. We're really excited about that, and we're going to be announcing more about that on the 8th of March. And then we have our normal planned couple of events coming up. I wanted to talk more about business acumen and also inspiration from the top, where we have a very senior leader from somewhere in the world talk about how she got there and how you can get there too. That's what I have planned. If you have ideas of something you'd like to hear about,